Welcome back to Valerie Rising. In episode 3, we are going to begin the first installment of my traumatic and miraculous pregnancy. Oh wow, 3-3. Like I said, this whole series is a soul-led project, and I wasn't exactly sure where to begin with this content, but this feels like a great place to share my testimony or my shero's journey, if you will. My previous pregnancies and births were mostly uncomplicated and happened in a birth center in Dallas, the same room actually. During my second pregnancy with Rocco, I did have a subchorionic hematoma that resulted in one very scary bleed around 12 weeks, and I went to the ER and it went away around 17 weeks and things progressed normally throughout the rest of the pregnancy. And so I never really thought I was going to have a third child, but I remained open to the idea, and I kind of figured that I'd know for sure by the time Rocco went to kindergarten. And, well, whenever he was in his last preschool year, I would say, I kind of knew that I was feeling a sort of way about having a third child whenever one of my friends announced her pregnancy with her baby number 3. And then we just kind of decided to not prevent pregnancy while I was ovulating, and we were on an adult spring break vacation. So it should not have been a surprise, but it kind of was when my period was late and I tested positive for pregnancy a few weeks later. So it was a very happy time in my life, and my oldest was in elementary school, Rocco was in preschool, and I was blogging daily outfits, some that ended up in magazines, and doing local appearances for brands and living the good life. We were excited and we chose a birth center for prenatal care and birth, and then the bleeding started. I think the first big bleeding episode started around 9 weeks. I remember it started on the way home from a kid's dentist appointment, and I was super freaked out about the whole thing, and I still kind of feel a lot of ways about this decision, but I ended up deciding to put on a pad and take my kids to their art show at school. This was definitely a time when I was operating from the mentality that good moms ignore their needs and get things done and all that. And I also just didn't want them to know that anything was wrong. So, yeah, it's super messed up in hindsight, and that was just where I was at the time. And I've been doing a lot of work to reprogram that mentality. And at the time, I know that I needed self-care, or now I know I needed self-care and support. And my midwife said I should have gone to the hospital for the amount of blood that happened. But at the time, I just assumed it was a miscarriage. And I knew I had a midwife appointment the next day. So I kind of figured I just didn't want to inconvenience my kids. And I did the art show thing until my husband came after work. And he switched off and did the kids stuff. And I went to the grocery store and got pads and sobbed in my car. So the next day at my birth center appointment, we might have heard a heartbeat on the Doppler. I can't recall, but for sure the day after that, I had an ultrasound where it was determined that I had another subchorionic hematoma and a little fetus who was still alive. So due to the size of the hematoma, I was referred to an obstetrician for prenatal care alongside my midwife. Things were great for a few weeks, and we went on a big trip to Texas, Louisiana, and Mississippi for my sister's wedding. We got to tell lots of family members in person about the pregnancy and just enjoy the beach, and life was really great. It was a special time. But then after the wedding, we were in Texas, and I had another, smaller than before, bleed before a relative's funeral. But being so far from home, it didn't seem like a big deal, and I knew I had the hematoma, so I continued with my regularly scheduled travel plans and possibly consulted with my healthcare providers, on the telephone or something. Then we got home from the Alabama trip, or whatever, my sister's wedding trip. Whenever we got back, I posted photos to Facebook where, I was wearing a super tight dress and it was very obvious to tell that I was pregnant, but it was shortly after that that I announced the pregnancy via a really cute, and now it's kind of hilarious, little pregnancy announcement. It's hilarious in the fact that it was just really wrong as far as a lot of things, but we're gonna get to that. So those were most of the defining events of the first trimester of what we're going to refer to as my WTF third pregnancy. I was super excited to have a little Colorado baby and hope that the pregnancy would help me make friends and stuff like I did in Texas with baby classes and the birthing community and all that. And yeah, then it just It's turned into like a whole thing. Um, Stay tuned for for the rest of that. It's just really, honestly, it's like a roller coaster. I refer to it often as a nightmare shit show, but it was just truly miraculous, and it's one of those stories that I'm not sure. Ooh, I'm cold. I'm not sure I would believe it if I didn't witness it and experience it for myself. Like it's just all so wild, and it is really nice to have this outlet to share it and to have you guys just like witness and see. And yeah, for me, I feel like this is a real big piece in my own healing process still, um, to process this all and share it. I've always wanted to share it just because I'm like, wow, that's amazing. And this is what works for me right now. So stay tuned. Like I said, complete roller coaster, utter chaos and trauma and miracles. So thank you for watching and leaving comments and sharing and subscribing and all of that stuff. I will see you tomorrow for another episode of Valerie Rising.